So this is part 2 of the Chapter 7 Consciousness Unit by David Myers, AP Psychology, 8th edition textbook. So here's just a snapshot of the actual chart. So hypnosis is when a hypnotist is actually going to suggest something to a patient, and the person is going to be unconscious, and this is what's supposed to get at the unconsciousness, their perceptions, their feelings, their thoughts, their behaviors. So when we look at post-hypnotic suggestion, this is when after a session is over that someone's actually going to continue to carry out what the hypnotist has asked. So if you are someone who's trying to lose weight, or you're trying to quit smoking or quit drinking, post-hypnotic suggestion might work. And so what they would do is, instead of you wanting to eat that chocolate cake, they would tell you, every time you think about eating chocolate cake, I want you to go ahead and chew a piece of gum. And so you chew a piece of gum, and then you don't have to worry about eating the piece of cake anymore. But you don't remember why every time you think of chocolate cake, you think of gum, because it's post-hypnotic suggestion. Post-hypnotic amnesia is supposed to make the patient actually forget what they did during a hypnosis session. Hypnotic feats are just what you see sometimes during a hypnotic session is someone has done something incredible during the actual session, like they did a double backflip. If you can do a double backflip under hypnosis, you can actually technically do it any other time. What it's talking about is someone who's under hypnosis, when they're doing those like amazing feats, they actually probably could do it any other time. It's just that they never think to do a double backflip or stand on a human being who is between two chairs. Facts and falsehoods. So can anyone be hypnotized? Yes, to some extent. Can hypnosis enhance recall of forgotten events? No. When we look at this, can hypnosis force people to act against their will? Nope. Free will actually matters. Can hypnosis be therapeutic? Sure, to some extent. But self-healing can also, or self-suggestion can also help with healing. Can hypnosis alleviate pain? It's kind of similar to like Lamaze. It's kind of like hypnosis in alleviating pain. It's that breathing mechanism that women do when they're actually going to have a baby. You need to know Hilgard, and you need to know his two things when he looks at hypnosis. So social influence theory and divided consciousness theory. So social influence theory, hypnotic patients, what they do is they're an actor. So in social influence, you're an actor and you're going to play out the role that the hypnotist wants you to play out. In the divided consciousness theory, what this is that your brain has split in awareness. It's divided. This is a divided consciousness. So that's why we call it a dissociative consciousness theory. So if you look at this example, Hilgard is putting something stinky in front of this girl's face. And in the divided consciousness theory, her mind has split in awareness and is not aware that he has put something smelly under her nose. And in the social influence theory is that she is trying to play the role of it's not smelly because she wants to live up to what the researcher wants her to do. So we're going to look at psychoactive drugs, and we're going to look at a psychoactive drug is a chemical substance that alters your perception and your mood, affects your consciousness. So as someone has continued to use drugs, what we're going to see is someone has built up a tolerance. With repeated exposure to any sort of drug, the drug's effect is actually going to lessen over time. And it's going to take you greater quantities to get the desired effect. So if you look at the case of Michael Jackson. So Michael Jackson had built up a tolerance to certain kinds of medication that he was on before he died. So the medicine to help him go to sleep, the medicine to help him get up, medicine for pain, all this stuff, you'll see people getting a tolerance for. And you'll get to a point where there's just nothing left for the medical profession to actually give you because you've built up such a tolerance for a substance. Withdrawal is anytime you actually stop using a drug after you become addicted to it, you actually get some sort of undesirable effects of withdrawal. And withdrawal is painful because your body's having to adjust to your body without the substance in it. Dependence. Dependence is the absence of a drug can lead to physical and psychological dependence. So physical would be you need it because of some sort of pain. And then psychological would be like an emotion. Like you feel like you have to have it in order to keep going. So withdrawal, because it's so painful, a lot of addicts will go back to using the actual substance because it's far better for them, in their opinion, to be on it than to be off it because the withdrawal part is painful. Addiction is a craving for a chemical substance, even though there are bad effects to the actual drug. So when we look at addictive drugs, they do actually corrupt very quick. This is why you can't just try drugs, is because they pretty much get people on the first take. heroin, cocaine. These things are pretty addictive, particularly like with meth. It's almost instantly addictive. Addiction cannot be overcome voluntarily. People need to seek help, and they need to seek help of a medical profession. Addiction is no different than any other repetitive pleasure-seeking behavior. You know, people who are addicted to drugs, they like the way it makes them feel, and that's why they keep doing it. There's psychoactive drugs. Here are 3 categories. We look at depressants, we look at stimulants, and we look at hallucinogens. So a depressant is supposed to reduce your neural activity, and it slows your body functions. So we look at alcohol, barbiturates, and opiates. Alcohol affects your motor skills, judgment, and memory. When someone's under the influence of alcohol, they really don't move very well. They're kind of wobbly. That's why they can't walk that straight line. Their judgment's decreased. It's why they think that they can get the keys and drive the vehicle when they shouldn't be driving at all. And memory. Their memory, that's why they don't remember what they've been doing when they were drinking. And we also see an increase in aggression why someone is actually under the influence of alcohol, and they reduce their self-awareness. So they're not who they are because their neural activity is depressed, it's decreased. So if you're depressed and you're drinking alcohol, it's just going to make you even more depressed because that is what alcohol does. It's a depressant. So when we look at a woman's brain with alcoholism and without alcoholism, there's a difference in their judgment, their frontal lobe area. We look at drinking and driving as something that is very negative, guys. Don't do it. Barbiturates. Drugs that suppress the activity of the central nervous system. They reduce our anxiety and they impair memory and judgment. So on these kind of drugs, people just don't really remember much. Their central nervous system and their CNS system is actually depressed as well. Opiates, these are opium, and opium is just a derivative. We get like morphine and heroin from the stuff. And so what we see is it depresses your neural activity. It temporarily lessens pain and anxiety. But opium, or opiates, are very addictive. And that's why morphine is a classified drug and it is under lock and key at the hospitals because people do get addicted to it. They do get addicted to heroin too. But if someone's in pain, like if they're going through cancer treatment, morphine might be something that they will eventually give to someone who is sick and possibly in so much pain that they could be at death's door at that point. Very addictive, very, very addictive. When we look at stimulants, stimulants are drugs that excite neural activities and they speed up your body function. So caffeine, nicotine, cocaine, ecstasy, amphetamines, and methamphetamines are all stimulants because they excite your neural activity. So they speed up your brain and your body function. Caffeine and nicotine, they increase your heart and your breathing rate, so it's not odd for people to have high blood pressure that use a lot of caffeine or nicotine. And they do other things like your autonomic functions to help you provide energy. But you know, smoking and caffeine is short burst of energy. It's not going to be anything prolonged. Amphetamines, what amphetamines eventually do is they stimulate neural activity and they cause an accelerated body functions and associated energy and mood changes with devastating effects. So what you see here is an amphetamine addict. So here's the first photo of her. Here's the second photo on the rest part. This is not really good. This is what eventually starts to happen. All the stuff that they put in amphetamines and methamphetamines is stuff that's like household cleaners, terrible things that you would never ever consume. You never put them in your sandwich that you're making, but they put them in these drugs and people are consuming them and it destroys your entire body. And you don't have very long to live once you start getting addicted to these sort of drugs. It is destroying a lot of families. Ecstasy, or X, what this is a stimulant, and it's a mild hallucinogen, and what it does is it produces euphoric highs, and it can damage serotonin-producing neurons. And then what happens with ecstasy is that it kind of like it overcooks your brain. Like your body gets so hot that what ends up happening is that your brain is actually cooking, and that's why they normally die is because they're dehydrated. So at a rave, which is typically where ecstasy is being passed around, it's passed around in suckers or something like that, they'll give them lots of water and they'll have the place really cool because these people are burning alive because their body is overcooking, it's cooking. Cocaine is another thing that we see. Cocaine is where they get like these euphoric highs and then they get a crash. Crack is a form of cocaine and it's smoked. And then you got other forms of cocaine that can be sniffed or injected. So all this stuff goes on with our stimulants. Hallucinogens are psychedelic drugs. They're mind-altering drugs. and they distort your perception, and they invoke some sort of sensory images into your brain. Even if there's nothing there, your body will see stuff that doesn't exist. So LSD, this is a powerful drug, and it's known also as acid. Acid's really bad. It's pretty addictive. What you see with people who have done acid is that their mind isn't normally right as time goes on, because acid stays in your system for a very long time. THC is an active ingredient in marijuana, and this is also going to trigger a variety of effects, including mild hallucinogenic episodes. So people who experiment with LSD or marijuana, this is where you'll see these people actually becoming schizophrenic over time, because part of schizophrenia is hallucinations. So it's not odd to see people who have been users of these drugs, abusers of these drugs, to eventually develop schizophrenia. So here's the drug summary chart. It's a pretty good chart to look at. It tells you the pleasurable and the adverse effects of each of these different drugs. Influence on drug use. So the graph below shows the percent of U.S. high school students, seniors, reporting the use of alcohol, marijuana, and cocaine from the 70s to the late 90s. You actually do see this stuff kind of decreasing, which is good. We see alcohol decreasing, and we see marijuana and cocaine decreasing. Now, here's the big thing, though, about alcohol, marijuana, and cocaine. Teenagers will try alcohol before they will these other drugs, because they feel that this is a less risky behavior than marijuana or cocaine. So influence on drug use, we have the biological, psychological, social, cultural, and there's this perceived risk, which I just went over. So the perceived risk is that the use of marijuana in teenagers is directly related to the perceived risk involved with the drug. People that perceive marijuana as a harmful drug, they're less likely to use it as the people who don't. And we do see a decrease in a near-death experience. When someone is almost dying, there's two things that we kind of look at. After a close brush with death, many people reported experience of moving through a dark tunnel with a light at the end. This could be under the influence of hallucinogens. It could be that they report this bright light at the center of their field of vision. But we look at dualism and we look at monism. So these are our two theories that we look at. Dualists are people who believe that the mind and the body are two distinct entities that interact. And so they believe that the body dies and the mind can go on. A monist believes that the mind and body are different aspects of the same thing. So if the body dies, so does the mind. And that's it for today.